Okay, so I'm going to take you through some lighting and rendering now. Now this is an animation tutorial, not a lighting and rendering tutorial. You'd have, lighting would have its own tutorial and its own tutorial course, and rendering could have its own tutorial course. So I'm just going to show you some basics, just so that you can get your animation out of Maya. Because let's face it, when you do an animation, it's no good to you sitting in here. You need to get it out and show people, especially if you're trying to put it in your showreel. So I'm just going to teach you some simple techniques to do it that aren't too complicated. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come into our up here, this little display render settings button. Click on that, and we're going to make sure we have mental rate. So sometimes it won't be there, and what you'll need to do is go Windows, Settings and Preferences, Plugin Manager. Then scroll down until we see, here we go, down the bottom, Maya to mental rate, Maya to MR. Click loaded, click auto load so that it auto loads it next time you load up Maya, and then close that. Then in your render settings, select mental rate. Okay, so the next thing you want to do, let's come over here, is we want to go down and we want to change our image size. So on default it's like this. Okay, that doesn't look too bad, but we really want to do HD, so let's just go 720. And you can see if you watch these grey bits here, when I change it, you can see it changes there. Okay, alright, so once you've got that set up, so this is just in the common tab, I should mention, so just the first tab. Then we want renderable cameras, so you can choose any of the cameras. We want our shot cam. Okay, and I'm working from the bottom up here. Then we want our frame range. We want it from 1 to 24 in this case, because I'm doing that walk cycle. If your animation goes longer, you will need to put obviously a more appropriate end frame in here. Now, if this is grayed out like this, you may have to just come down here to the file output and change it from, it says name single frame, down to one of these other options here. It's up to you which one you use, and then that'll come back and you can put your numbers in there. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we're going to go over to indirect lighting. Now in here we've got this option at the top under environment called image based lighting. So I'm going to click on create, and we have this sphere. So what we have is this big sphere here. So what this does is it allows us to use an image to drive our lighting. Okay, we're sort of going to fake global illumination. So over here in the attribute editor, while we've got this light selected, this dome selected, it's asking us for an image. So we're going to click on this file here, and there's heaps and heaps of different free HDR images on the internet. All you have to do is Google them. So where are we? Let's find where I've got all mine hidden. There we go, HDRI. And these are just ones I downloaded from the internet for free. Okay, so it doesn't really matter which one we choose here for now. So if I go in, click on one, this one will be fine. Open it up. There you go. So I will not include these images because they're not mine. I didn't create them. You can download them for free. If you do a Google search, there's heaps available. Okay? So that's all good and well. So if we go back to our shot cam, let's pick a nice pose here. Let's come up to the top here and it says Open Render View. I'm going to click on that and this window here will pop up. So we're just testing our lighting to start off with. So we want it to render really quickly. So I'm going to come into Options, Test Resolution, and I'm going to set it down to 50%. Okay, so that's 50% of the original size. Okay, if I click on this button here, it's going to render the current frame. So let's click on that. Okay, now you can see the first issue we're going to have is we're going to have that dome showing in the background there. So I'm just going to let this render out for you. You can see how long it takes, and my PC is not particularly great. It's not particularly fast, so it may render faster on yours or it may render slower. So that took 24 seconds. Now you can see here we want to get rid of that picture in the background. So what we're going to do, just drag and select that. Then we're going to scroll down to Render Stats. We're going to take Primary Visibility and shut that off. Okay? Simple. Now the other thing we need to do is we're going to open up our render settings again. Go to Common. We're going to go down the bottom, all the way down the bottom, Render Options, and it says Enable Default Light. We're going to click that. Close that. Because we want to render with this light here, not with the default light. So I'm just going to click on this button just to save that so I can show you what it looks like. And I'm going to click Render again. And you can see now we get a much different result. It only took 7 seconds to render, but now you can see what's happening here is because we took out the default light, we can't see anything. Because we haven't told the computer, we haven't told Maya to grab some information from this dome and transfer it into a light information. So let's open up our render settings again. The first thing we can do, before I go into that actually, if I select this, there is an option in here, light emission. So this is, I've selected the dome. You can use that, however it does render a lot slower than if you didn't use that. Okay, so I'm just going to, I'll turn that on, and I will bring up our renderer. We'll save this, I'll render it, and I will pause the video because this will take a little while, and I'll come back and show you what the result is. Okay, so that took 47 seconds, which I suppose isn't that long. It's going to save that. I'm just going to zoom in a bit here. So you can see we get a reasonable result. Now this is, remember, this is only half resolution, so this is half of the resolution we want to save out as. So if I was to render a full one, it's probably going to double that time there. Okay. So there's a easier way of getting the light information. So if I let's turn emit light off. I don't use that just because it's a bit slower. I'm going to bring up the render settings again. So click this button here. Back over in the indirect lighting tab. I'm going to skip global illumination and I'm going to come all the way down to final gather. Okay. I'm going to click that on. Now your settings may be different to mine. I use it a lot, so my settings are saved here. If your settings are different, just take a look at mine and just start with these settings here because you'll get a pretty good result. Again, I'm not going to go into detail on what each one of these do because this is not a rendering DVD. This is not a rendering tutorial. So just go through And if you hover over them, they'll give you a brief explanation of what each one does, but that's what I've got mine set. You can pause this and copy them if you need to. And let's just let's see what that's done for us. So let's make sure we've saved that one, and let's render. So it will take a little while to render. Okay, only 14 seconds, so that's much faster than 47 seconds. Okay, so you might be thinking to yourself, well, that there doesn't look anywhere near as good as this one here. And no, you're right, it doesn't. Because what we're going to do is, instead of taking the light information from the dome for our main light source, we're just going to put a directional light in here. So we're going to go into a perspective view. Now, just trying to find roughly where the light source is coming from on this picture here. It's pretty omni. It's pretty much coming from, well, that could be it right there actually. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go create, lights, directional light. Click on that. Now when it comes in, it'll be pretty small because this scene scaled up a lot, so I'm going to just scale it up. Now scaling this light up doesn't do anything to the intensity of it. Okay, and then I'm just going to orientate this light to where that light is. So I could do it this way, or I could get the light the way I want it and then rotate the dome here, okay? But for now this should be fine, I think. Okay, so let's go back to our shot cam, bring up our renderer, and we'll save this guy and hit render again. Oh, so rendered our perspective view there instead of our shot cam. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to IPR, and I'm just going to choose shot cam and switch me over, and then if I hit render again, it should render it out for us. Okay, pretty good. I do think we have our light facing the wrong direction though, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the light, it's going to go to the top view just so I can see exactly what I'm looking at here, and I'm just going to rotate that all the way around like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the dome, just because we want it to match up. So it appears that I've messed up my rotation here. Let's drag him down. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good to me. So again, I'm going to switch over to my shot cam here, and now I'll just save this one because this is actually a pretty good result. We just have the light on the wrong side. So I'm going to render this guy again, and you will notice that this is a lot faster than if we put the light emission on from the light dome directly. You can see with the light on this side of him, we're getting a much better result. Okay, so if you want to see what Final Gather does for this, I will turn it off quickly and re-render. The first thing you'll notice is that it should render a lot faster. And the second thing you should notice is that there won't be anywhere near as much life in this. And you can see that a whole bunch of him is blacked out. So what Final Gather does is it grabs the light information and it basically fakes global illumination. So we're going to put some bounce light from this dome onto the character, and that will light up the other side that's not getting direct light. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put that back on, close you off. I'm going to go to my test resolution, let's put it up to full, let's re-render it, and we'll see how long that takes. So I'm getting a little warning down here saying that my textures aren't loaded properly. That's okay, we can load them in after. For now we'll just render this. Okay, there we go. So let's make this guy a bit bigger. And there we go, we get a pretty good result from that. And it only took 33 seconds. So I'm just going to do one now. I'm going to get rid of my directional light. And I'm going to turn on emit light from the dome. So I'm just going to delete this guy. Select the dome, turn on emit light. And we'll just check and see how much longer it takes. Okay, so I paused the video there and we're back, and you can see that down here it says it took 3 minutes 33 seconds. So that is a lot longer than 33 seconds. Now there is a big difference as far as the quality of the render goes. You get a lot more fill lighting, so you get a lot more lighting on the other side of him as well, but we can handle that with our directional lights as well. So if you want a bit more than this, we can do that, and I will quickly show you how. The other thing that you might notice is the colored variation. So this guy here is a little bit more blue than this guy, and that's because it's taking the color of the environment here and using that as the light. So I'm going to turn emit light off. Well, actually I'm going to hit undo until my directional light comes back. There we go. I'm going to go to my perspective view. So we can fake that simply by changing the color of this light. So if I double click on this color over here while I've got the light selected, and we can just mess around. We don't want to put it too blue because it will be really blue. So let's just click done there. So I'm going to duplicate this light, and then I'm going to rotate it around opposite direction, something like this. Maybe we'll bring it over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this down to 0.5. 0.5 might be too strong. We'll have a look in a second. And then we're going to go back to this guy. And we're going to save this guy just for comparison, and we'll do a render. Okay, and we're back. Again, that only took 30 seconds. We're getting a very similar result now. So the last thing I might do is I might just turn that color up a little bit more, because I'm not really getting much of it in there. So let's select our first light here. Let's bring that up. second light, and we'll bring you up as well. And I'm just going to do another render. Okay, so there it is. You can see that really does change the color there. Okay, so whether you want that rich color or that more bluey color. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and reload my textures here. So I might just take that the blue away, because I don't really want too much blue on there. Actually, I might have it in this second light. I might put a bit more blue in that second light, but leave the maybe put a little bit of yellow in this one. There we go. Alright, so let's go down here, and I'm going to select my light, and I've made a layer here for the lights, so I'm going to add the selected objects and just put that on reference so that I can't grab them. Unreference my mesh, and I'm just going to go in here to the attribute editor, and I'm just going to make sure all my maps are loaded. So it said that I've gone too far. Let's try that again. It said that my specularity map was not loaded. So I'm just going to find where I've got that guy. So I'll organize the files a bit better for the ones I give use, but for now this will do. We'll load that, and let's re-render that and see what the difference is. Okay, so there we have it. And that's going to be the final render that I do. Now, that's all good and well rendering out a single frame, but how do we get all of these frames to render out? Well, the first thing we need to do is we're going to come up here and we're going to change it from whatever we were on, whether it be animation or whatever, down to rendering. We're going to come over to render, and we're going to click on batch render option box. Okay, so this is all fine. I'm not going to really change any of this. And then we're going to click on batch render and close. Now when you do that, it'll start rendering out. Now you need to set your project. So if you go set project and tell it what folder you want to set the file in, because what will happen is the project folder is where this batch rendering will save out to. Okay, and again, depending on how long or how quick your computer is, depends on how long it will take for this to render out. It will tell you, if I click batch render and close, and give it a second here, and down the bottom here it will tell you where it's going to render it out to. So you can see here it's changed, and it's saying percentage rendering done, and it's telling you the directory of where it's saving the files to. Okay? Alright, so that concludes our course. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've learnt something, and I wish you luck in your pursuit of animation.